Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman. Oh, well, I think we just slightly better than that. Good morning. Miles better. Thank you so much. Welcome, Father Bott. I'll ask you to lead us in prayers this morning.
Thank you, Chairman. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Almighty God, the giver of all good things, without whose help our work is ineffectual, and without grace and wisdom is folly. Grant, we pray, that in all our work for this council, we may be strengthened by your love, guided by your Holy Spirit. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen. We pray for your blessing upon all who live and work in this county. Give your grace to those who occupy positions of authority, that they may fulfill their responsibilities with wisdom and equity. Grant that true faith, honest dealing, and mutual service may be the standard of our common life. Make us strong to meet every challenge which the future may bring. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Heavenly Father, we pray for those in need. We ask for your healing spirit to be upon King Charles, Princess of Wales, and all those whom we know to be suffering, that you may strengthen, support, sustain, and give them hope and courage. We ask this in the name of Jesus our Lord. Amen. Amen. I invite you, if you wish, to join with me in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Please take your seats. Item 1 on today's agenda, apologies. Are there any apologies for absence?
Chairman, good morning. Councillor, good morning. Yes, we do. We have apologies from Councillor Afsar, Councillor Heath, Hood, Hutton, Jay, Councillor Jones, Perry, Price, and Councillor Ward.
Are there any further apologies? Councillor Atkins.
Apologies from lateness for Nigel Yates.
Thank you.
He should be here in half an hour.
Thank you. I will be doing. Item 2 on today's agenda are the declarations of interest. Does any member wish to declare any interest? No, moving on. Item 3, confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. I move that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 16th of May 2024 be signed as a true record. Is that agreed? Thank you. Thank you. Item 4, which is the Chairman's correspondence. It really gives me great delight to read out names of Staffordshire residents who've been recognised in the King's Birthday Honours List. It's absolutely fabulous. And I'm sure the members will wish to join me in congratulating the following Staffordshire residents who have received honours in Her Majesty the King's Birthday List. Member of the Order of the British Empire for Anthony Adrian Matthews of Rugeley, a volunteer at the National Memorial Arboretum and branch chair of the Royal British Legion for voluntary services to veterans. An MBE for Susan Ann Nichols of Stone, lately the Chief Executive of the Citizens Advice Staffordshire South West for services to the community in Staffordshire. An MBE for Nicholas Corbishley Owen of Kimber, for services to broadcasting and charity. Obviously, quite a number of us would know him as Nick Owen. An MBE for Philip Edward Pusey of Burton, Chief Executive of the Staffordshire Council of Voluntary Youth Services for services to the community in Burton and Staffordshire. Quite a number of us know Phil Pusey well, and I do offer my personal warm congratulations to Phil Pusey. An MBE for Rosemary Rees of Cannock, Head of Engagement and Skills at the Midlands Metro Alliance, and lately member of the West Midlands Women in Rail Steering Committee, and is for services to diversity and inclusion in the rail industry. An MBE for Valerie Helen Riley of Leek, Volunteer Conservation Warden for the Staffordshire Wildlife Trust for services to wildlife and conservation. The medalist of the Order of the British Empire for Dr. Mary Bradshaw of Newcastle, lecturer at Newcastle and Stafford Colleges Group for services to further education. And a BEM for Hilary Dowson of Ellestone for services to the community in Ellestone. Also a BEM for Linda Mary Forrester of Leek for services to British Gymnastics. A BEM for Thomas Edward Noblet of Stafford, lately a councillor for Lapley, Stretton and Wheaton Aston. Parish Council for services to local government. And a BEM for Elizabeth Ruth Timmis near Ashley for services to the local community. And last but certainly not least, a BEM for Anthony Michael Ward of Codsall, a swimming and technical officer for services to swimming and para-swimming. I'm sure, members, we will offer our warmest congratulations to the recipients of those awards, all obviously come from our wonderful county of Staffordshire. Moving on, item 5, the statement of the Leader of the Council. Councillor Alan White, will you move consideration of the statement, please?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I move consideration of the Leader's statement.
Thank you. Moving swiftly on to item 1 on the Leader's statement, which is Staffordshire means back to business. And of course, we have speakers immediately. Councillor Charlotte Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to follow up on the awards to Riverbank Restaurant, because Joan Molly and I tried out the restaurant at one of the Staffordshire Ambassador events, and we found it to be very good value. The food was excellent. I have to say the serving staff were a little bit nervous, but I think we were their first customers of the day, so presumably they were still finding their feet. But yeah, lovely little spots, and I'm really delighted that they've had these awards. Very well deserved. Congratulations. So thank you very much.
Councillor Philip Atkins.
Thank you, Chair. There's 3 things I'd like to draw members' attention to in this particular paragraph. And one was we had Love Cheese Live Festival at the County Showground. And I noticed, it's the 3rd year it's been there, and it's been well attended. And it's an international event with over 4,000 entries. And the winner, it's quite ironic actually, was the Long Clawson Shropshire Blue, for those of you who are cheese fanatics. I do like my Shropshire Blue. But the one thing about Shropshire is it's not made there, it's made in Leicestershire, Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire. And I find it quite ironic that it had to come to Staffordshire to get recognised. So I thought that was really good. And one of the other things that I can't actually see in here, but it's the LIV golf tournament very soon at the JCB Golf Club Roaster. And I want to thank our officers for the work they've done helping the tournament organisers to hopefully it goes quite smoothly. They've had events there before, and they're used to JCB Open Days and all the rest of it. But this is a massive event with 20,000 visitors to the LIV golf tournament, which for those of you, well, I didn't know until the leader told me that LIV stands for 54. It's the Roman numerals. They have 3 rounds, and it's quite unique in so much that the golfers are paid and they have a share of the profits rather than turn up at an open and hope that they might win. There's a message for some there. You get paid, and if you really do well, you get paid a bit more. If you just turn up, you might not get anything. But the main part of what I want to talk about was the Keele University and its Keele Day and the 75th anniversary. And I was pleased to go and see the graduations and the graduation dinner last week. And the amount of work that university has done in medical profession, I think they've had their 2,000th doctor that's passed, graduated from there. Might have got the figure wrong, but it's really good. And I was pleased to see the venues that the County Council has helped deliver at Keele, from IC4 all the way through to IC7, either in funding, support, or helping through. The vet school, which has got 700 students there, that was only opened up about 2 years ago. And since then, we've got the Denise Coates Business School and John Caldwell's Children's Centre and a hotel. And I can remember, Chairman, when I became the leader, it was very difficult to get anything done there. But with our help and the help of the Newcastle Borough Council that changed control and had a brighter idea about planning than the previous administration, I think that we've got something that's a jewel in the crown, topped off with the Keele deal, which was an agreement between ourselves and Keele that they would be part of the community, and that is what's happened. So the ethics of the Keele University, when it was founded 75 years ago, was a bit one-off, and you might say a bit strange for me to be supporting, but I think that it's really gone and delivered, and we should be proud of the fact that it is a jewel in the crown of Staffordshire and what we're all about. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Atkins, and I agree. My wife and I were blessed with being invited to a lunch, the graduation lunch at Keele University. It was excellent, and it's great to see the work that goes on there. Councillor Jeremy Pert.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillors, good morning. I wanted to follow up the comments of the Leader of the Opposition. First of all, I welcome the positive unemployment figures within Staffordshire being a positive example, and particularly against the rest of the country and against the West Midlands. However, I note, and I've mentioned this a number of times, that youth unemployment still remains 1.8%, above the all-age figure. And I hope that the County Council will take steps with partners to get all young people into either employment or full-time learning, whether that be courses or apprenticeships. There is, after all, a shortage of skilled workers in the local jobs market across the whole of Staffordshire. Given that, I would like to celebrate the success of Newcastle and Stafford Colleges Group in securing awards in catering and hospitality. This report references Trentham Gardens, who are also putting on summertime attractions, Drayton Manor and Alton Towers, who attract 1 million visitors a year and 2.3 million visitors a year, which compares very favourably to a number of national visitor attractions, for example, Stonehenge, which attracts only 1.3 million visitors. So given this, can I ask the Cabinet Member whether he would consider adding tourism and hospitality to the local skills improvement plan priorities in the next iteration of the LSIP with the Staffordshire Chambers, please? Thank you.
Councillor Anne Edgeler.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, everyone. The Moat House Acton Trussell is one of the jewels in Stafford Crown, following on from what Philip said about jewels in Crown, yes. Talking to the owner, following on from the television documentary featuring the Moat House, the bookings have improved greatly. I remember the alterations at the Moat House and it being completed. It is a beautiful building. It is today, as it is today. I have to say, I enjoyed the tasting menu last Saturday night, celebrating our wedding anniversary. It was a menu with a difference, thoroughly enjoyable. Long may it continue. And also, Chairman, can I also mention the fantastic facility we have in Stafford, Newcastle Stafford College Riverbank Restaurant. It is a pleasure going and being served by the up-and-coming chefs within Staffordshire. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Edgeler. It would obviously be remiss of me not to wish you a happy anniversary. Thank you. Councillor Janice Sylvester Hall.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Just building on the comments of Councillor Pert in particular there, Staffordshire is definitely growing notoriety for its reputation as a food destination. And I'm pleased to see in particular the efforts of Tom Shepherd of the Upstairs restaurant fame being further recognised nationally in the Restaurant Awards, building on as well from the much coveted Michelin Award that was received 2 years ago. I think it's fair to say we're pretty blessed over in the wider Lichfield district. We also have the Boat Inn with Liam Dillon, and that's just to name but two, proving very attractive venues for hospitality, not just in the wider Lichfield district, but across Staffordshire. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mark DeVille.
Just to support Councillor Pert and Councillor Atkins' comments, Chairman, Staffordshire's reputation is growing very, very quickly as a superb county to visit. And Councillor Atkins touched on the Live golf competition at JCB. It's a wonderful course. If there are any golfers, and there are a few golfers in this room, any golfers that haven't played at JCB, I strongly recommend that you do that because it is a fabulous venue. The Live Golf competition, Chairman, it's massive for Staffordshire. It's great news for the hospitality industry around Rochester and surrounding area, indeed right across Staffordshire. And just to give you a bit of a feel to the size of this event, I often say to Staffordshire it's the equivalent of holding the FA Cup final at Burton Albion. This competition is massive and it's going to attract, the elite golfers of the world, right across the world. The last leg of the Live Golf Tour was played in Brisbane, Australia. The previous year at Brisbane, they attracted 10,000 visitors per day. And that's roughly what we anticipate could attend at Rochester next week. By the way, it's on next Friday, Saturday and Sunday. I shall be there Friday, Chairman. I've got tickets with my son and his friends on Friday. So there were 10,000 a day at Brisbane in the previous year. Last year's tour competition in Brisbane attracted 30,000 visitors a day. So, this is massively sustainable competition, and that's exactly what we want for our excellent venues in Staffordshire. And I'd like to thank our officers who've worked in a really, really positive way to make this happen and to keep everyone safe and make this an enjoyable experience, and have worked really, really well in partnership with East Staffs Borough Council, with JCB, and indeed with the emergency services. So it's a really exciting time. Heads up, on the Friday and the Sunday of the Live Golf, there's also your Toxeter races on, both days, and of course the traffic that will be going through to Alton Towers. So is it a challenge? Yes, it is. A challenge that we take on board. But is it a massive thing for Staffordshire? Absolutely, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor DeVille. Councillor David Smith.
And I'm delighted that Drayton Manor Theme Park comes to Lichfield Rural South with the boundary changes. So it gives me, next time round, something very special in my division. Chairman, I've had a phone call from my grandchildren who live some way away, but they're coming to stay with us. And the one thing, when I asked them what they wanted to do, was to go to Drayton Manor Park. So I will go on the ups and downs and the round and round and the ins and outs of a theme park. And maybe that might be reminiscent of our political lives, that we do go round and round and in and out and up and down, but we all end up back where we started. So thank you, Chairman. Thank you to Drayton Manor for being a superb part of our county, and I look forward to feeling sick on the day they come to see me. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. From my recollection, when my children were small, I believe Thomas the Tank is still there and substantially gentler. Councillor Victoria Wilson.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, everybody. I was fortunate to attend this year the UK Reef in my remit as the portfolio holder at the local South Staffs Council for Business Enterprise. And I'm just referring to the final item where we talk about the West Midlands interchange. So just for anybody that doesn't know, and I doubt that there is anyone in this room that doesn't know, but it's to be the largest and most environmentally conscious rail serve logistics development in the UK. It's going to be creating 8,500 jobs and generating £430 million of local economic activity. So phase one is underway, as you know, and it's very exciting times. And I just wanted to raise as well about the Green Innovation Corridor that's obviously going to be developing new opportunities and improvements. So I'm really grateful to the collaboration that the local council, South Staffs Council, with Wolverhampton Council, and the portfolio holder here at Staffordshire County Council, Councillor White, for the work that we've done and the work that's to come going forwards. Thank you.
Councillor Calvin Trowbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. Absolutely agree with everything that's said here. Just a few other little comments. My daughter's also at Kiel University, doing her last year this year, so I hope Philip will be congratulating her next year. Couldn't agree more about the university. Best place to eat if you're looking at encouraging young into catering, and it's an excellent meal and very good cost. The Moat House and everything that Lewis Partnership does is fantastic, so could not complain if you go to any of theirs. But I actually stood up to apologise to Stone. Westbridge Park Festival that stopped there last year and couldn't go, that was my fault. I used to be Cabinet Member for Leisure, and it was my job to get Westbridge Park through. So hence, while that all went on, the festival couldn't go ahead. But I must say that was one of the most important things to the Stone residents, that they stated to me, categorically, stated to me that the most important thing about that the place as a whole was to keep it user-friendly for events, because that brings everyone in Stone together. So I'm still glad I did it, but apologies that you couldn't have the food festival last year. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one more speaker before I bring in the Cabinet Member. Councillor Mike Worthington.
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't going to say anything really this morning, but because David mentioned Drayton Manor, I thought it would be very remiss of me not to mention Alton Towers, which is in my division. I know visitor numbers are down this year because obviously the cost is quite prohibitive, and I wish Alton Towers would stop charging for parking because people park everywhere, unfortunately. But I also just like to give a point about food. I took my family for my daughter-in-law's birthday down to the Tawny Hotel at Console. And believe you me, they have a wedding there every day of the year. It's a fantastic venue, and if any member wants to go there, it's absolutely fantastic. So I recommend the Tawny Hotel in Console. Thank you.
Councillor Philip White.
Morning, Chair. Morning, everybody. It's not a coincidence that this part of the leader's statement's got quite a big tourism and hospitality theme, as we're a couple of days away from the start of the school summer holidays. So it's a really good opportunity to celebrate the fantastic offer that Staffordshire has, both for people who are coming to visit us, but also for people who live here in the county. And I'm not going to attempt to add to the things that other people have said, talking about many of the wonderful attractions that we've got within the county. A couple of things that I will just raise. Absolutely delighted that Alistair Budd, the director of Trentham Gardens, one of our largest attractions, has now taken over the role of being the chair of our local visitor economy partnership, which is where the attractions and other businesses in the tourism and hospitality sector work with the public sector to promote Staffordshire and to make sure that we've got the things that we need for those sectors to thrive. With that in mind, part of the work of the Visitor Economy Partnership is an improvement plan, so looking at areas that we need to enhance. There are two key ones. One is improving our accommodation offer so that more people who come to visit Staffordshire actually stay for a night or two. We're massively popular as a place to come and visit, but we need to do more of that to meet demand. An event such as Live Golf, where you can have 10,000 people, or maybe even more, descending on the county, many of whom will want to stay overnight, illustrate that need for that. Our success needs to be matched by that. And the other is skills. So it's training and keeping the people that we need doing various jobs within that sector. And we need to keep on feeding that success so that those businesses can continue to thrive. So I will make that recommendation, and I'll also take it up with Mr. Budd in his role as the chair of the Visitor Economy Partnership. The only other thing I'll mention is, as Councillor Wilson mentioned, is UK reefs. So travel and tourism is one of three key areas where we look to the outside world in terms of promoting Staffordshire's economy. We all know a lot about We Are Staffordshire, which markets the place, but the other area is inward investment, which is absolutely key to continuing to make sure that our unemployment in Staffordshire remains low, but the quality of our jobs, so well-paid, highly skilled, high social value, continues to be the case. The great thing about UK Reef is, and this is, as I think I've said before, it's the slightly less wild version of going to Cannes for MIPIN. Councillor Wilson might disagree about how wild it was, but for me it was pretty moderate. But the great thing is, it meant that all of our local authority family could be there with us. So all 8 of our districts and boroughs, and indeed Stoke-on-Trent City Council, all promoting Staffordshire together to investors. And I very much hope that we'll have some good announcements off the back of the relationships that we built there over the coming months. So travel and tourism, start of the summer, really important part of our economy, but we're working on the bigger picture as well.
Thank you. Moving on to item 2 on the leading statement, which is the Community Learning Accountability Agreement 24-25. Councillor Charlotte Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's reassuring to see that community learning has received a good Ofsted rating in February 2023. But what progress is being made on those areas identified for improvement in the self-assessment report, particularly the increased challenge to those who are the more able learners? Secondly, the use of diagnostic assessment to more effectively support the development of English and maths, and also on the multiplied contracts, reprofiling those so that they extend their reach and improve learner recruitment. I think all those areas are important if community learning is going to continue to deliver effectively for Staffordshire.
Councillor Philip White.
Thank you very much, Chair. So this is another real area of success within the County Council and has been for many years. I mean, it was really good to get that Ofsted seal of approval recently with that very strong good rating. We've got around 3,000 learners who benefit from courses through our community learning scheme across the whole of the county. We made some changes to community learning a few years ago to make it more focused on functional skills, so particularly maths, English, information technology skills, but also health and well-being, as a good in itself, but also as a springboard for many of those learners into either formal qualifications or into work. Regarding your questions, Councillor Atkins, I'll have to write to you on them because they are quite detailed, and it would take a bit too much time, I think, to try and go into them today, but I will do that. They're very good points, and ones where you will have a detailed answer because I know that the work on those points is there to be seen. Thank you.
Moving swiftly on to item 3 on the leading statement, which is addressing the impact on communities on Wallis Quarry. Councillor Derek Hookfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you're about fed up with hearing me talking about this, but can I just say it's 5 o'clock this morning, right? We had to go to bed and shut the windows. It was that bad. Right, and this is becoming a regular occurrence. And it seems, and everybody seems to have the attitude, nobody cares, nobody does anything about it. Do a lot of talking, and that's about it, right? And the problem is, I mean, this company, right, and it's mentioned here about Staffordshire County Council paying money. The company, right, is making millions of pounds, and the government, right, has had millions of pounds, right, out of this company, right, for the landfill. And we've got the Environmental Agency, right, no matter what you say to them, right, I've had meetings galore with top people from the Environmental Agency, wrote to the government minister, wrote to the Prime Minister quite a number of times, right? The answers you get are absolutely diabolical. It seems as though nobody really wants to know about it. And the more you shout, right, the more you get frustrated. And the more and more people that come up to you and stop you in the street complaining. Right? It's mentioned earlier by Councillor Atkins about Keele University. I'm the county councillor for Keele University. You forgot to mention that, by the way. Right? And can I just say, on Keele University, we've had a lot of problems, right, because they haven't been able to concentrate, right, in the university, because of the problems they're having with all the smell that's going up there, right, and what they're breathing in, right, and people's health is being affected. There's no getting away from it, right, and you can't go to the doctors and say, well, I've got a bad chest and I've got a sore throat or whatever, right, because you can't turn around and say, well, it's pinpointed, it's definitely coming from the landfill side, right? And the problem we've got is, where do we go? Where do we really go from here? Because we've only got 2 years left, right, of filling with waste. And after that, they've got to bring soils in, and that type of stuff to cover all over, right? But it's still going to be there. Right, it'll be there for another 20 or 30 years after. Who's going to look after it? Who's going to maintain it? Who's going to stop the gases from coming out? You have an area, right, where there's a lot of springs, a lot of water, right, within that area. The leachate alone, right, builds up inside, and they have to take it out in tankers. There's that much of it. Time and time again, I've brought this up. I've had the Environmental Agency, time and time again, sitting in my house, going all through it, what can we do? I put proposals forward, and Councillor Tagg will tell you. Right? I invited him to the meeting, right, and put proposals forward on how to deal with the problem, or how to deal with the problem, right? Don't know what, no. You know, and that's the Environmental Agency. Right? And this is a government body. Right? It makes me wonder what's going on across the country, because there's about 500 sites across this country, right, concerning these landfills. Right? And something drastically wants doing about it. And I hope this council and everybody else that's involved, I hope that they will do something about it, even though at this late stage, it might be a late stage, right, but it's the ongoing afterwards when you'll still get the problem, right? And whether the company or the Environmental Agency or the councillors will have to foot the bill for it, I don't really know. Right? But I think the government has had enough money out of this, and they ought to pay for it, and not the ratepayers of Staffordshire. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hookfield. Councillor Nigel Yates.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm extremely sympathetic to this issue. I mean, I'm very close in my division to the division with Wallis Quarry, and I often frequent the garden centre just at the side, and there's times I've turned into that garden centre, got out of the car and wondered how anybody is actually working there, never mind visiting. It's absolutely disgraceful, to be honest. The one thing I will say, and this is not meant as a political point, is that obviously we have got a new MP, a new Environment Minister, a new Prime Minister, it does give us a chance to sort of reset and double down, because they have made, I understand they have made overtures already specifically against Warwick's Quarry to try and resolve it, but I think now is the time to, you know, refresh the efforts of engagement and make sure that the new administration is actually pulling their weight and doing whatever they can. And I would certainly support any efforts of them. Sure. Charlotte can certainly support any efforts in pushing that with the new administration. Thank
you. Before I call the Cabinet member in, there's somebody pressed the wrong button, and if you press the wrong button, and this is quite an important point, so if somebody wants to speak, Liam, how are we doing on this? Is somebody waiting to speak, apart from the Cabinet member? Oh, thank you. You pressed the wrong button. Councillor Mark Winnington.
Good morning, everybody. Chairman, guilty as charged. I did press the wrong button. It's okay here. When you're on the tractor, it has dire consequences, so it might be the right button not to press. Just a quick one from me, and I totally appreciate how awful it is to have that smell all of the year round, 24/7. You can't I mean, it was a muggy night. Everyone's opening the windows, and you guys have closing the windows because it's a muggy night. It's horrible. My only hope is, and Derek's obviously on the case, is that when they come to reinstate the quarry in its final sort of situation, that they do take account of the gases that are being produced, because that's got quite an environmental benefit to the area, and I hope that some of that, the profit that comes from those gases goes into the local area as well, because they ought to be compensated in some way or other for the awful time that people in that area have had. Thank you.
Councillor Simon Take.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to Councillor Huckfield for his comments. Always, when he speaks in this chamber, he speaks from the heart, and as somebody that's right on the cusp of the quarry, he knows what local residents are suffering, and it goes wider than just the quarry edge. It goes to most of our town on occasions, and of course we've seen in the last few weeks complaints rising, and the monitoring equipment seen a spike, so this isn't over yet, and it's just unfortunate that the Environment Agency back in the spring obviously asked Wallis Quarry Limited to do work and actually suspended the operation for only 7 days. The company did the work within those 7 days, allowed it to reopen, and we're back now, I believe, to square one. And this is the summer months when the odours aren't as prevalent as they would be. What's it going to be like in October and November and December, which are the worst parts of the year? So I think action is needed pretty soon. So firstly, on the item 3, I think I thank the Cabinet and the leader for taking this issue up and bringing this issue to Cabinet and it being reported today. I think it's great to have the County Council as an ally, not only as a strong ally in making representations to government, but also, Mr Chairman, also being part of the strategic coordinating group and also the work of health experts and public health in it as well. That's really important to get their views and get their support in holding the health authorities to account, but also the Environment Agency. And that brings me to what Derek said about what happens next, and also to what Mr Yates said about the new government. I think we do have a clean slate, so to speak. Now, I've criticised the previous government and the previous Prime Minister in this chamber, in the chamber in Newcastle, and I will continue to hold whatever government is to account while we've got these odour problems. And I think there's 2 things we could do very quickly, and I've already, in my role as Newcastle Borough Council leader, wrote 2 quick letters with the new government coming in. One asking for the permission for the Borough Council to move forward on the prosecution of the abatement notice. That will put pressure on the operator and also give people a bit of reassurance that something's happening and that we can do something. Secondly, is we need the EA to act, the Environment Agency, and on 2 things. They should revisit the suspension that they took in the spring. It hasn't worked. The work it doesn't seem to have worked, the work that has taken place. And we probably need them to take action. And I think, and I've said in this chamber before, that we need a closure notice followed by full capping and then restoration. Because I think looking in the long term, there is a restoration plan, and that brings us back to the County Council. The County Council is the planning authority for the restoration plan. That is in place that will lead to the full capping restoration of the site over a long period. But once that capping is in place and that soil is put on top, that will be a way of containing the odours, and then the gas is drawn off as part of the plan to keep, obviously, the odours from getting out into the community. So I think that's what we need to see. But also we need to see the EAL to account. Derek has said they failed on the long term. We all know that. We talked about it in this chamber. And I'm calling again for a public inquiry into the EA's regulatory failures over the last few years. I think the new government is in the right sort of place for that, because they come in, as you say, Councillor Yates, a fresh pair of eyes. And I think we cannot forget what has happened over the last few years. The uncalibrated equipment, monitoring equipment, we still haven't had the data back to see whether the actual levels were much higher. Also, they forgot to turn on the equipment on one of the worst, in one of the monitoring stations on the worst weekend of the stink back in 2021. It's just a catalogue of errors, and I think it needs to be investigated. So this doesn't happen elsewhere, because there are landfills all over this country, some more in this county, that are causing problems, and we need the EA to be on top of these, and they weren't on top of Wally's Quarry. I believe they're still not on top of Wally's Quarry. We need a public inquiry to see how the failings can be put right. Thank you.
Councillor Alan White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As long as there's breath in Councillor Huckfield's body, I don't think he's going to stop campaigning on this issue. And he's quite right to be campaigning on this issue. He's campaigning because he wants action. Newcastle-under-Lyme Borough Council is campaigning because it wants action. Staffordshire County Council is campaigning because it wants action. All we've had so far is words. And what we're looking for from the Environment Agency is those words to become action. Because we can apply as much pressure as we like. We can expend as many words as we wish. But it's not going to make a difference until the authority who has the power to make a difference actually takes action. And I think Councillor Tagg has summed it up very neatly. He's rehearsed the work that we've done jointly. It has yielded little difference for the residents in Councillor Huckfield's division and those of neighbouring divisions, as Councillor Yates has pointed out. But we will continue to apply pressure. Only yesterday I wrote to the new Secretary of State highlighting the issues that Staffordshire County Council is facing. And I hope with the new slate, the fresh start that we've got, that we see some action on behalf of the agency that is charged by government to make a difference to the lives of people who are blighted by things like Wally's Quarry. Let's make this the year where we can make a difference for the people who live in your division and neighbouring divisions, Councillor Huckfield. And I know that you'll continue to campaign until the last possible moment. Keep going.
Thank you, Councillor White. Moving on to item 4 on the leader statement, which is the framework agreement for roofing works. I have no speakers. Councillor DeVille, do you wish to speak on this? Okay, we'll move swiftly on then. There's nothing on my screen, Councillor Yates. If you want to speak on this, fine. No, it wasn't the wrong button. There's still...
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, and good morning. And apologies for being late. My wife had an incident with a highways issue, which had to be resolved this morning, but it's all right. Yes, the only thing I will say on this is that it does give us the opportunity to look at provision of renewable energy systems on the roofs, whether they be solar power electric systems or whether they be hot water systems. Obviously, there's a lot of noise about using green fields, and there's been a lot of comments in this chamber about we should be utilising the surface area of all the buildings and all the roofs which we've got. So if we've got a new framework agreement being put forward, then perhaps that should be embedded in it. I'd like to think it already is embedded in it, but if we can have a reassurance of that, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Councillor Mark DeVille.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yes, the reassurance is there, Councillor Yates. We've had this discussion before, and yes, you're quite right, and we'll continue to work together on that point. Thank you, Chairman.
Moving on to item 5, which is the framework agreement for Staffordshire garden waste. Councillor Conor Wildman.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Can I digress just for 1 second, just to talk about the tourney that Mr. Worthington mentioned. Fantastic, jewel in the crown of Staffordshire, unbelievable place. And today I'm going to be booking it for my wife's birthday. So it's amazing, go. On this particular point on Staffordshire garden waste, slightly different, it is potentially a political issue. In the wider districts and boroughs, there's a lot of grumbling about charging for green waste. I want to ask the Cabinet member, how might these two frameworks affect the district and borough green waste collection? Thank you.
Councillor Simon Take.
Thank you, Chair. To answer that question, I think it's just to point out that this framework agreement has been worked up with the districts and boroughs through the Sustainability Board. Of course, the collection of the waste is a district and borough responsibility. A lot of districts do charge. The district I'm from charges and has done for a number of years. But we're talking also here about the disposal of it and getting it to where it needs to go to be part of the recycling system. And I think this framework agreement leads to two things. It leads to efficiencies. And second, it leads to cutting down on carbon emissions of travelling materials across the county to go. We need to get it to the place nearest to be recycled. So I think on the issue of charging, that's the district's responsibility. And as I say, a number of districts have moved down that route, and I think others are considering it too.
Moving on to item 6 on today's leader statement, which is the financial outturn report 23-24. Councillor Julia Jessel.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I wouldn't normally rise to talk on the financial budgets, but I think it is important because unless we get the principles right and the management of our budgets right, we can't provide the services that we would wish to for our residents. And as we've seen with some authorities, they're having to make drastic, really difficult decisions because they've not faced this difficult decisions in the past. We have, and we're in a far stronger position. But reading the small paragraph here, I thought if a member of the public read this, it masks the huge amount of work and some of the key messages. And those are, yes, there is an overspend of 3.9 million. To all people, that's an awful lot of money. But when it's taken in the context of the overall revenue budget of 632 million, it works out at 0.6% overspend, which actually in any business is pretty close shooting. And I think congratulations go to the Cabinet members, the leader and the officers to deliver that end result. If I can also just highlight, and some would say as a former Cabinet member for Health and Care, I'm bound to do this, that actually health and care, which covers adult social care, is one of the biggest budgets. Both that and with children's and families, it's 2/3 of the council's budget. So unless you get that right, there's an awful lot of services that would suffer as a consequence. That health and care budget underspent by 5.2 million. And there are savings on many of the other budgets. That represents a huge amount of effort and hard work by all concerned, that's councillors and officers, in delivering that. However, as we know, children's and family services are under huge pressure nationally. I don't think there is an authority in the country that doesn't have these problems. But I would seek the leader's assurance that the principles that are applied to adult social care of strong budgetary management, providing a quality service, but using innovation and strength-based practices will be applied to children's and family services in the future. And I know there's a huge amount of work that has been undertaken and will continue to be so. But we do have to address the issues that, as I say, are there nationally, and I think it's something that the government will need to look at to address very rapidly. The report also goes on, and another just sentence that may raise concerns with the public, that we've used contingency budget to fund pay awards. Again, this underlies the strength of this authority because, and a little bit further in the report, it says our level of general reserves are well above the target of 2%, which is considered to be the good benchmark for authorities. So I think it's right to say that the public should have confidence that at Staffordshire County Council we manage the budgets by prudent use of taxpayers' money. We use good budgetary management and we use innovation. And we're not afraid to innovate. And if I can give us an example, our brilliant community libraries that provide a county-wide service. Many authorities are not able to do that. We innovated and we were able to do that and continue that brilliant service. But also we're continuing to engage with our local communities, which is so important, by things such as the Councillors' Community Fund and the Climate Change Action Fund. These are really important to people out there, and we can't do that unless we get our budgetary controls in place. Staffordshire County Council is one of the very few upper-tier authorities that are in this strong position. We're not going to sit on our laurels. We know there's more work to do. But I would like to take this opportunity to thank the leader and his cabinet colleagues and the officers for enabling this position to be maintained and hopefully maintained in the future. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Mike Sutherland.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, one and all. I fully endorse what Councillor Jessel has said. I'd like to just sort of step back, and for those of us that were in the chamber in 2017, and I know it was a long time ago, 2018, will remember the focus this council had in place on costs and the way we delivered our services. This focus has continued right up to today, and that's helped us become a well-run and financially sound county council. And the outturn results we see today in the report are sadly not seen in many other local authorities. For me, an encouraging read in this leader's report shows that the benefit of having a long-term focus on our finances has enabled this council to deliver a £120 million capital programme over the last year, with continued investment in our economic regeneration, highways, schools, etc. So with this ongoing focus on costs and delivery of service by this council, it definitely tells me and us and our residents that it is working for the residents of Staffordshire. So I endorse what was said earlier about congratulations to this council for the work and the work that they've undertook over a long period of time and continue to do so. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Mark Sutton.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, colleagues. I just wanted to reassure Councillor Jessel that in children's and families that we do take exactly the same viewpoint that she raised around cost and efficiency, but balancing that with the ensuring that we continually safeguard children and we look to ensure that their outcomes for those children that are in our care and need safeguarding as good as they possibly can be in all the circumstances. The overspend on the budget that is highlighted for last year is primarily around the placement costs. And colleagues will know that at a previous cabinet meeting, we have taken moves to address this by looking at having and developing a programme of more in-house residential care so that we can challenge the market that's out there with residential costs. But the costs that push us above the current budget tend to be for some of those children that are have got particular vulnerabilities that is difficult to place, and hence the cost is higher than it is for other children. But what we have in place is a way of looking to try and address that as we move forward during the next financial year. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Philip Atkins.
Thank you, Chairman. it was Mr Sutherland commenting about what life was back in 2017, and that triggered me. And also a comment that was made in the chat with the chief the other day, when one of the people on the Teams call put a question in about, we've got a lot of houses being built, will there be a school? And well, of course there will be, because we're a well-run authority. We plan ahead. Well, like that in 2009, when we took over, I had distinct memories of we needed to build 3 primary schools in Burton-upon-Trent. We got no sites, no money, and we had 3 years to do it in. That was the legacy that we inherited. And we had to move very, very quickly to find a site, build the school on the way out of Burton towards Tutbury, enlarge 2 others, and find another site for an academy school within the town itself. All forgotten. All forgotten. Good hard work by officers and members here. It cost one of our members their seat in the following election. But if you don't plan ahead, then you don't get where you are. Doesn't mention it here, but I-54, this council put £22 million into the motorway junction alongside Wolverhampton, paid back through the business rates. Money's never a problem. Paying it back is. And I just worry about what our national government are going to do with their plans. It's lots of promises, but where's the money? And we are a sound, balanced council, local authority. I know the headlines will be full of a £6.8 billion deficit and lots of other things in local authorities, but that's because they've not made the tough decisions that this authority has made since 2009 to deliver outcomes for the residents of Staffordshire, not whims of politicians and what we may think might be best. So this is a really good report, because the £3 million is like nothing in the amount of money will soon be recovered. Sounds a lot to the man in the street, but this is a multi-billion-pound business. And it's the work of the councillors and the officers together that has delivered that, Chairman. And I'd just like to say thank you to everybody in the past that's laid the foundations for a really bright future for this authority. And I think we should just polish ourselves a little bit, because we're in a far better position than many of our neighbours who haven't made those decisions and helped our residents, supported our residents to help themselves. There'll always be somebody who'll want a bit more, but we're here to support them to help themselves. Well done to those involved.
Councillor Alan White.
Thank you. We stand on the shoulders of our predecessors, don't we? And sometimes I feel like I'm following on from Pep Guardiola over there. He's got the same haircut anyway. He's completely missed that. Some difficult decisions have had to be made over the years. And I remember being the Cabinet Member for Health and Care, and Councillor Philip Atkins asking me to make a whole lot of difficult decisions. But we made those some time ago, thinking about what the future looks like. We are, as Councillor Jessel pointed out, one of the very few large upper-tier local authorities that has a balanced budget over a 5-year term. That's what's called a good and balanced budget. Yes, we are dipping into reserves, but we are contributing back to reserves from the money that we've taken to deal with some of the pay awards. Innovation is where the future lies, thinking of new ways of solving old problems. We need to think about innovation across the council. It can't just be in certain portfolios, it has to be the breadth of the council. And I know the Chief Executive and others have been encouraging the officer teams to think about new ways of doing business. To children, I've been part of the Reformed Children's Improvement Board for the past 6 months, and I'm absolutely delighted to see the endeavour that goes into thinking of ways of looking after our children in better ways, and as a consequence of that, hopefully more efficient ways. But we do need to look after children in our care. We do need to look after children who have special educational needs, and that is costing money. And we would look to government to think about ways of funding some of the special educational needs requirements of the children in our care and also in our schools. But the most important thing to point out is that the driving force that sits behind this council is financial prudence. We make sure that we run a balanced budget so that we can continue to deliver services for the future. You can do nothing if you're bust. You can do plenty of stuff if you're not. Councillor Philip Atkins is quite right, though. There are people who want more, and you'll see later on in the leader's statement, we are doing more with roads because that's what people want. And Councillor Mark DeVille will talk to that, and I'm sure plenty of other councillors will want to talk to that as well, about potholes in Acacia Avenue or wherever they are around the county. But we are doing more with your money, taxpayers' money, because that's what you ask of us. So this is a good report. 3.83 million is not to be sniffed at. It is a lot of money. As a proportion of the turnover of this authority, though, it is a relatively small proportion of money. We wouldn't want to be having an overspend if we could possibly avoid it, but we do have pressures in some departments that we need to attend to, and this is a reflection of those pressures. We continue to innovate, we continue to try and work more efficiently so that the taxpayers' money, it's not our money, it's not the council's money, it's the taxpayers' money, is as efficiently spent as possible. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Item 7 on the leader's statement, which is the Staffordshire Bus Service Improvement Plan 2024. Janice Sylvester-Hall.
Thank you very much, Chairman. If I can just put my notes on here to remind me. This may well be overtaken by recent events of yesterday, but certainly as far as bus transport is concerned, I have a number of contacts from residents, and I have of late taken probably what is an unhealthy interest in looking at how many people are actually on board some of the buses that are going around, certainly the wider district of Lichfield. Buses not turning up being one of them, being forced to get taxis at some considerable expense, and a certain amount now of antisocial behaviour that's been occurring outside of the county, but certainly affecting residents who are finishing their journey back in my particular area that are also reporting those to me, which I obviously are passing those on to the police. I think that certainly what we're trying to do locally has been innovative in being able to improve that level of offer from the operators, but what hasn't helped in particular is the interavailability of the Staffordshire Not tickets, which I'm not sure if colleagues are aware of, which previously meant that you could buy that ticket and it would work across a number of operators. And some of my residents in particular have been adversely affected by the withdrawal of that Staffordshire Not ticket. And I would suggest that that's looked at again, notwithstanding what I said at the beginning about how this may well be overtaken by events, no pun intended, from the King's speech yesterday.
Councillor David Smith.
Thank you, Chairman. I think we have a major conundrum that I can't see what the solution is going to be, but I think that we need to address the problems with our villages. It's totally impractical for us to start looking at bus services of the frequency that people require when we look at bus services into villages. So I think that bearing in mind, for example, in some of my own villages within my division, the average age is now over 65. So the number of people who perhaps don't have cars anymore, the problem gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm not suggesting that we suddenly start running buses every hour for only one person to be travelling on them, but I do hope that we're able to look at a more creative way of dealing with the problems of people isolated in villages. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Mark Winnington.
Thank you, Chairman. We haven't sort of shared homework on this one. But when I was involved with the buses on Cabinet, this was, as has just been mentioned on the previous item, something that we had to take some serious decisions on, and something that was requiring innovation. If you want difficult decisions, sit down round a table as a cabinet and look at average costs per passenger, per journey, and some of them were quite eye-watering. This was sort of 5 years ago, and there were some were sort of in the £50–60 a journey that we were subsidising as a county council, and we took some fairly draconian decisions, which we all had to take on the chin a bit. It was not a good time, but as both Alan and Philip said, these decisions have to be made occasionally. One thing I would ask when we're looking at the bus service improvement plan, and it's reiterated with my two fellow councillors here, please look after the rural areas. The problem with the rural areas is that there might only be one person or two people on a bus, but if they rely entirely on getting to doctors and hospitals and nurses, whatever else, we've got to think of ways to make sure that we look after these people. Rural poverty does exist, and anyone who's in a rural area will see this and want to champion it. There are innovative answers as we go forwards. We've now got sort of cars, vans with electric power that don't cost so much. I'm sure that the officers will look at all these things and decide what they can do. We had something, a dial-a-ride, which I helped set up. It was very successful for 4 or 5 years, and then it started to sort of drop off. So we went to sort of, you could actually ring up and book it. And the officers came to me at that point and said, "You're the local member, we have a problem." And I said, "What's the problem?" And basically one gentleman was dialing it up, going to Sainsbury's, having coffee, and going back again because his wife didn't want him in the house. And that cost £12,000 for that one passenger. So you can soon escalate the costs on bus service. And likewise, in the King's speech, when they were talking about passing buses back to local government, please be careful. It will be a poison chalice. Thank you.
Councillor Anne Edgeler.
Thank you, Chairman. I've been having meetings with the officers at the County Council that will negotiate terms and conditions with the bus operators. And with that in mind, I am hoping, I repeat, hoping we can implement a bus service in the Stafford South East Division, i.e. Bassage, Hillcroft Park, Wildwood, Ring Road. The problem is the bus operators will not implement a bus service in that area until the work on the road Radford Bank A34 into town is near completion. It is a case of watch this space. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Councillor Johnny McMahon.
Thank you, Chairman. Speaking to residents in Cannock Chase, it's clear to me, anyway, that the bus companies don't make their offer even remotely attractive. The buses keep breaking down, serial breakdowns of buses. There's occasions when the driver doesn't know the route, goes the wrong way, and the folk on the bus have to tell them where to go. It's hopeless. The buses simply don't turn up. People aren't informed. We've got technology these days. There's apps that bus companies can use to inform people about when buses will be there. And I think these are basic bread and butter issues which the bus companies aren't addressing. And if we have a role, it's to hold their feet to the fire. Thank you.
Councillor Robert Pritchard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm delighted to speak on this important issue. Although the County Council doesn't run bus services, we are in a very important place to shape the provision in Staffordshire. Following the completion of the revised bus service improvement plan, which I'll refer to as BSIP to keep it shorter, and our connectivity survey, I can confirm the authority was awarded £6.3 million. Our BSIP, through an evidence-based approach, set out our current offer, the proposals for service improvements for the next year and beyond. Our BSIP proposes a package of revenue and capital investment, not just in buses, but in bus infrastructure too, and that capital would be funded through grants and other investment opportunities. The plan has been assessed against its expected contribution towards the national bus strategy goal of growing bus patronage. Our goal is to ensure that our changes help aid the recovery of Staffordshire's bus provision. The current service is currently programmed for investment in the next year in the BSIP will grow patronage in districts by the following measures: providing better connectivity between our settlements, particularly on corridors not served by rail, and better connectivity to rail stations, providing residents with better links to their town centres, education providers, jobs and the services they need to access, completing town centre economic growth proposals by being delivered by districts and borough councils through the Towns Fund, the Future High Street Fund and Levelling Up Funds, increase the number of residents in urban areas that live within 400 metres of at least an hourly bus service, enhance services along corridors that experience traffic delays and therefore encourage the use of buses away from cars, improve connectivity in areas of deprivation and improve cross-boundary travel. The bus services that we're proposing for improvement in the BSIP and from the Networth North funding during the next year include extending operating hours, extending routes, increasing frequencies of services such as the Service 8 in Stafford, the Service 93 in Biddulph and the Service 765 that connects Tamworth and Lichfield. Funding will also see the introduction of new routes like the Service 95 that runs between Audrey and Biddulph, or the Service 63 that runs between Cannock and Uttoxeter, whilst continuing to support the routes that communities need. We are committing funds to help grow bus patronage and ensure existing routes are not cut. The bus services identified for support will be reviewed annually to ensure that they continue to contribute to the goals we've set out. In addition, we are working with the Enhanced Partnership to devise a temporary fare incentive offer to kickstart the use of buses, simulate a modal shift away from cars and generate economic benefits to our town centres and high streets, and obviously make buses a more attractive use for transport for those on lower incomes. We also know that it's essential that we have a robust annual monitoring and evaluation of our proposals to ensure that they are delivering value for money for the taxpayer. But finally, I would like to remind everybody watching that Staffordshire County Council does not run bus services.
Councillor Mark Duvall.
Chairman, thank you. I think my colleague, Mr Pritchard, has summarised this item perfectly, Chairman. The only thing I'd say is to give assurance to all members that blank cheques will not be issued to bus companies. What we will be doing is working in partnership, taking Councillor McMahon's point, dead right, Johnny. We need to improve the service to our customers. And in partnership, that's exactly what we'll be doing, to improve punctuality, customer service, regularity of services, and the better placement and planning of routes. So, perfectly summarised, I think, Chairman, and I'm sure you'll all agree that this is a great opportunity for us to work in partnership with the operators to enhance our connectivity right across the county, particularly, as Mr Whittington says, in the rural areas. And of course, it's essential that we also look at connectivity out of the county as well. So a real opportunity for us all, councillors, I'm sure you'll agree. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Moving on to item 8 on the Leader Statement, which is the Staffordshire Leaders Board Terms of Reference. I have no speakers, so I'm going immediately to Councillor Alan White.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. It is a real joy to be able to bring together the leaders of all the local authorities in Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent to talk about what we can do together. I did 20 years as a district councillor, and I know the the genuine benefits that district and borough councils and the important role that they play in their communities, and I'm a big supporter of the work that they do. We've recently welcomed Stoke-on-Trent City Council onto the Leaders Board, and we are looking at a series of things that we can do together that will make life in Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent better. For example, local transport planning. How do we get around the county? How do you get from Leek into Stoke? How do you get from Burton into Derby? How do you get from Kinver to Wolverhampton? All those questions need better answers than we currently have at the moment, and these are the sort of things that we are looking at. We're also looking at whether or not some powers can be devolved down to our area, that is Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent. And as it happens, only yesterday, or the day before yesterday, the new Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, invited upper-tier local authorities to submit some proposals about what they consider to be the opportunities for devolution from central government to local government. And I think that's a good thing, because we know best what's most important for the people that we represent, be it transport, skills, health, the list just goes on and on. So I'm really glad that we're going to be given that opportunity. What I do want to be clear about, though, is that there is no appetite amongst any of the leaders of the local authorities in Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent for a mayor. An additional layer of government, additional layer of local government is something that's not, we don't perceive at this moment to be necessary. Why? Because we have leaders, we have a leaders board, and we have a way of cooperating together which I think is extremely efficient. So with that, we will be responding to the Deputy Prime Minister's offer. I have shared that letter with district and borough leaders because it only went to the upper tier local authorities. So in the spirit of cooperation, I look forward to working together with all our partners across Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent to come up with some exciting opportunities for Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent. I just want to put on the record, though, that councillors and scrutiny committees will get the opportunity to look at what we're doing. The Leaders Board is a public meeting. It isn't anything that's going on behind closed doors. We want to make sure that the public and fellow councillors know what's being discussed. No conversation about you without you, I think is the phrase that we're using, and that will be the case with the Leaders Board. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Moving on to item 9 on the leading statement, which is fixing more roads. Councillor Jeremy Pert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm sure members will be pleased to note that I don't intend to provide a long list of roads that have been surface dressed in my area this summer. Nor will I be praising the county for the ramping up of the work and the extra funding that has gone into our road network as a result of the wettest winter in the last 100 years and the county's response to it. But what I did want to reference, however, was the County Council being rated by the asphalt industry as the best in the country for their proactive approach to using surface dressing to prolong the life of roads across the whole of the county, rather than leaving them to fall into further disrepair. I also wanted to raise and say that 1,000 people have signed a petition that I will be presenting later to you, Mr. Chairman, to ask for the full repair and resurfacing of the A519 trunk road north to south through the Eccleshall division, given it is closed for significant structural repair so regularly. I guess, in summary, that you're only as good as the next set of repairs that you do rather than the ones that have already been done. Thank you.
Councillor Gillian Pardesi.
Thank you, Chair. Very pleased that the work on Wolverhampton Road has been completed, longer awaited for. If I can just say, though, Chair, that as with any major project, there's still room for improvement for communication between the council and residents and businesses. There should be no resident or business who should be saying to us, the first I knew about it was when the signs went out or when the work actually began, particularly when there are businesses who have no recourse to any compensation for any loss of business, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Nigel Yates.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And what I would like to say to start is thank you for the Highways team, past and present, for the effort and work which has been put in to resolve some of the long-standing problems in my division and the wider area. What I do want to refer to, though, is an item which I brought up at a divisional highways meeting, which was chaired by Councillor Flunder. It was a very positive meeting and certainly a good way forward to communicating issues and things. But since then, just one issue with the micro asphalting. It does add a couple of inches to the height of the surface. And as reported at that meeting, and I've since had a couple of issues raised with the residents, it can overcap dropped curbs, and in certain places, especially where there's a downward sweeping bend, it has been implicated in surface water flooding issues which have never arisen. And one of the solutions which was put forward at the divisional meeting is that a little bit of planing away with a narrow planer on the edges where these things could potentially be predicted and happen. Obviously, we've got an issue where they weren't predicted and they have happened, and it's going to be a shame that a road which is resurfaced has got to be another re-intervention of whatever that is, and I hope it brings it back to the appearance and quality as it is, but obviously resolves the surface water flooding. The other slight negative, which I'd like a response to see if it's in next year's capital budget, the A527 was earmarked to be resurfaced effectively from where it finished off last time at the bottom end of my division all the way through to a set of traffic lights at Knipersley. There's two significant patches which haven't been done, which have been left, basically because I believe they run out of funding because of the effects of inflation. Correspondence has gone to a number of people, including Councillors DeVille and Flunder, and I have raised this with Councillor Flunder. The Thames Drive roundabouts have got a multitude of issues at the moment, and they've got a couple of long-standing claims being resolved. And really, you know, it does need a proper repair doing that. So if we can have a definite commitment that that's going to be done, I believe it's going to be done, so I'm not asking for something which hasn't been discussed, but I could do with that looking into. But again, I don't want to detract from this issue about being proactive in planning for the micro asphalt and the extra depth which is causing the issues with the surface water. Thank you.
Councillor Anne Edgeler. I've called you, Anne.
Press the wrong button again.
You have pressed the wrong button
I do
again, yes.
apologise.
But,
Thank you, Chairman.
they're working
Yes.
miracles to try and sort it. Thank
I
you.
welcome the work that has been done and started on the A34 Raptor Bank. It has been a long time coming. I share people's concerns over the disruption it will cause, but if that listed bridge were to collapse, it could be 2 years of disruption, not the 4 months we have to We have to remember no work has been done on that road for 30 years. It won't be easy, but I can assure everyone highways are doing all they can to minimise the disruption. I ask the people living in the area, please bear with us. And someone has said, you can't make an omelette without breaking eggs. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Councillor Philip Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am to Rose like Derek is to Wally's Corrie. It might be because our surnames begin with H. He's HUC and I'm HUD. Work's begun today, Mark, in Stafford Road. It's a fantastic. So I'm going to have weeks now of people moaning about the roadworks, but that's a very positive start, and thank you so much for that. But I'm just going to mention one location to you, Back Lane, Utoxeter. Back Lane, Utoxeter. There's been a problem there for 41 years that I know of. It's where people use the shortcut past the school, which causes dangers to our children. And when I was a police constable, the head teacher used to write to the inspector, and I was sent there between 5 o'clock in the afternoon and 7 and book everybody that used the road. Unfortunately, Staffordshire Police now have a different view on the law down there, so nothing gets done, and it's still a danger. Now, it was put in the capital expenditure last year. It's still in there this year. The plan's been drawn up, Mr. DeVille. Please, 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 can you get it scheduled for me to be done this year? Because we've promised the local people this job for many, many years. I promised it them for the 3 years I've been the county councillor, and I want to be able to deliver that for them as soon as I can, because I know it will be really, really positive news for Staffordshire Highways. Thank you.
Councillor Keith Flunder.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to take this opportunity, really, to thank members for taking part. Nigel's already referred to taking part in some members' meetings that we're organising. I have the last one in North for Stafford on Monday. These meetings, I think most of the members have seen them as being very positive, direct contact with the officers, and also allowing the officers to understand or to let the members know what the plans are over the coming months. These meetings, I hope, will continue, and we will develop them and bring in additional officers all the time because the Highways Network team is so large. And another bit of news I think that members will be looking forward to, or some of them will, and it's also publicly accessible, are the newsletters. These newsletters will no longer just be for the whole county, they'll be for each district. So each district and borough will have their own newsletters which will be brought out on a monthly basis. We're halfway through. I think we had 2 last week and 2 this week, and there's 2 more weeks to go. And by that time, I hope that all members across the whole of the area of all parties will be able to read what has taken place, what the current situation is, and what will be happening potentially in the future. Obviously, the road plans have to have a lot of flexibility within them due to the weather and everything else that comes along. Sometimes it gets delayed, other times it gets put on the back burner to the future year, so the next year. So as I say, if there's issues out there, I'm happy to listen to them, and those meetings I think will go on. And I do hope that members of all parties will take a chance to attend those meetings. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor David Smith.
Thank you, Chairman. I do apologise. My light seems to be doing strange things. Can I really ask a simple question? When we go into the country and go to our country lanes, the lanes were built for 2 cart horses to pass. And so when we talk about the edge of the roads collapsing and the problems with drainage, when we look at country lanes, this is something that is not going to be resolved by resurfacing, because on the edges of the road, there is nothing underneath that provides the stability for the edges to actually hold on to and provide a reasonable surface for transport. So I have a frustration, Chairman, that for however much we repair our roads, particularly in country lanes, that the edges will collapse. And I don't see a solution to that unless someone is going to say, yeah, wow, I know how to deal with it. But unless we resurface and put new bases underneath the edges, our country lanes will continue to collapse. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Sylvester Hall.
Thank you very much. Last night was the culmination of 7 weeks' worth of a particular scheme, which started with a meeting with myself and other local members, pretty much going through the centre of Lichfield. Now, for me, this is a shining example of how we can do things well when we have that dialogue, not just with us, with local members, but also the local communities. And I would like to say a particular thank you to the engagement from the local fire station. So during road closures, made particular arrangements from where on-call firefighters would be coming from if they were to have a shout. All of that effort together has meant that it has gone through. The only thing that we couldn't really assist with was the rain, although we do try occasionally with that as well. But a much thanks from my part, which I have already passed on, but it just goes to show how that can help deliver a very smooth operation for both the contractors and the communities. The only thing that I would ask to finalise is that we make sure that that's done consistently on all of those major schemes. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no further speakers. Councillor DeVille, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Sylvester Hall absolutely nailed it. You know, the importance of communication and the importance of working in the spirit of teamwork. You're exactly right. And really good points have been raised, Chairman. I take all of them on board. And I get it. I understand, you know, the importance to all of you members for the highways in your area. Even more importantly, the importance that it is to our residents. We all use our roads. So we absolutely get it, Chairman. Councillor Pardesi, you are right. Is there room for improvement? There certainly is room for improvement, particularly around our communications. Taking Councillor Yates's individual points, as regard to the asphalt surface dressing, I did notice that James Bailey was writing profusely notes down around that, and I get it, you know, the issues with the different levels of ironworks. That's something that we need to look at, we'll continue to look at. Mr Hudson's point, that takes me back, Phil, back lane, Eutoxia, that takes me back to my school days at Eutoxia Grammar School, of course. Yeah, and that, along with Councillor Yates's comment around Knipersley, those will be absolutely considered. Of course, I've got to say, they'll be considered against other priorities right across the county. But in no way do I diminish the importance of your project and your project, both in Eutoxeter and in Biddulph. They're really, really important to us. Mr Smith, exactly right. I think we all see that problem, particularly in the more rural areas. And you're right, the country lanes that we use all the time weren't designed for the level of agricultural vehicles that we see there now, or for HGVs, but they do use them. So the edges of our country lanes is a real problem, and it's a long-term problem. And I assure you, the assurance I can give you is that with the team, with the highways team, with my colleagues Mr Flunder and Mr Pritchard, we will be working on this. That, of course, it's been a long-term problem, and it's a long-term solution, but it is something that's very, very important to us, particularly in the rural areas. Just to summarise, Chairman, Councillor Pardese is right, we do need to improve communications. Tremendous amount of work's being carried out and completed in Stafford, in Burton. I saw the Derby Road project a couple of weeks ago, which is now being completed. Really good job has been made, completed with a really good finish, and that will enhance the lives of people in that area and people using Derby Road. Big projects in Cannock, big projects in Codsall. Got to be positive to the lives of our residents, and positive, and gives us a better experience of using our roads. Major structural maintenance projects, such as those that I was speaking of, they enhance the life of our roads. They also, many of them, enhance road safety with road safety engineering works. And of course, they enhance the surfaces of our roads as well. So I spoke of the projects that have been completed successfully. We've got projects pending in Lichfield, of course, in Biddulph, in Stafford, and in Newcastle. And just taking Councillor Edgeler's comment, of course there's going to be congestion, and I get the frustrations when you sat in four-way lights. But I would again ask, you know, this is for the good of the county, and it's for its improvement in the lives of our residents, the work that we're doing. So I would ask for patience and bear with us whilst these works are being carried out. With regard to the maintenance of our highways, we've repaired, since we commenced this recovery plan, we've repaired over 8,000 potholes. We've got 10 crews out carrying out additional work, and an additional 8 crews, repair crews, will be out during July. But they're only numbers. Our residents don't care about those numbers. 8,000 potholes means nothing to our residents. What the residents want to see is our teams going out there and improving the surface of our roads. And that's exactly what's happening, Chairman. So, we're making good progress. Is there more work to do? Absolutely, of course there is. And I greatly appreciate the work that local members do in helping us to prioritise this work and helping us to make a difference for our residents. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor DeVille. Moving on to item 10 on the leading statements, which is investing in our libraries. Councillor David Smith.
Can I correct the report that we've got? Lichfield doesn't have a library. It has an amazing venue. And if no one from here has actually visited the Lichfield Library, they've missed out on a super opportunity to look at something which is quite exceptional. I do recall when we first looked at the possibility of doing away with the old library that we had objections and we had protest groups and all sorts of things. Suddenly, we don't have any problems anymore. People look at the library and look at the area which provides facility for music venues and all the sort of things that it's able to do. Yes, I welcome the investment in what you are calling the library, but I call it an amazing venue. Chairman, may I add to that, which tends to get forgotten, are the community-run libraries. And the Shenston Library is really quite exceptional. It's not only a library, it's a meeting place. You can get a superb cup of coffee there and even a cream cake. So I would recommend to any member to not only visit Lichfield Library, but while you're there, nip over to Shenston and have a cup of coffee and a cake. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Philip White.
Burtonian. I use Burton Library a lot, and I've got to go this next couple of days to return some books which we borrowed from there. Burton Library is one of my little boy's favourite places, and it's fantastic, the quality of the service there, and I have to say the quality of the books as well. It's very rare that you see anything other than a really new looking, really well maintained book. But the building itself has been incredibly well used over many decades, and it is fantastic to see that we're now investing £1.3 million in refurbishing the ground floor of that building. The designs, which had extensive input, not only from councillors, but also from members of the public who use the library, look amazing, and I'm particularly excited to take my little boy into the new children's section when that opens towards the end of the year. So great that Burton's getting its turn, but it is one of many fantastic libraries around the country, and Lichfield, whatever we call it, is the other library we go to quite a bit, or venue, and it's amazing, and if what we have in Burton's up to half that standard, we're going to be very lucky, but it's an area of the council's activities we should be really proud of, and thank you, Victoria, for signing off on that investment into Burton.
Councillor Gillian Pardesi.
Of our libraries are managed by our communities. Can I ask what sort of access they have to a professional qualified librarian, and whether they've ever had to close because of a lack of volunteers? And the reason why I asked these two questions, Chair, is that I believe it's dishonest to represent a library service when taxpayers have paid for a quality service with a librarian. Libraries are a statutory service, and people have a right to expect a certain quality of provision, and councils need to be honest if this cannot be provided. My understanding also is that community-managed libraries work fine where there are communities where there's an abundance of free time and affluence. But it does not work as well, and sometimes not at all, in areas of the greatest need, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Mark Sutton.
And I'll try not to get this into my library is better than your library type scenario, but I will anyway. I wanted to emphasise something that's not necessarily in this report about refurbishment of libraries, and that's just the ongoing maintenance work and stuff that carries on a day-to-day basis. And as an example of that, at Brood Community Managed Library, where I volunteer, along with many, many others, all the windows that were originally fitted in 1972, when it was built at exactly the same time as Shenston Library, have all been replaced. Now, that not only helps with the comfort of the building, but obviously from a carbon efficiency, fuel efficiency and all that has a really good impact on that. And I won't try necessarily to answer Councillor Pardesi's point that she makes, because I'll leave that for my Cabinet colleague, obviously. But as a volunteer at Brood Library, that maintains virtually exactly the same hours as it did before we were community managed, I think probably about 8 years ago now. I've seen the absolute value that volunteers get out of that. I thought originally this was about helping in the community and giving something for the community. It is that, but we've had volunteers who've got back into the workplace, have gone on to get jobs, many of them within the library service as part-time and full-time individuals, others that now work in the prison library service, others that have worked for local authorities in core handling. It has a massive impact, and there are individuals there who've gone through difficult circumstances in their personal life, and being within a community with other volunteers and working together, how it's enhanced their skill base, brought them out, helped with their mental well-being and endless other things. So I refute completely the negative approach that the councillor opposite has just talked about.
Councillor Conor Wellman.
Thank you very much, Chairman. It's wonderful to hear the stories that Mark has just talked about how libraries help everyone, not just people who use them, but also people who work and volunteer within them. The fact is, this is probably the thing that I'm most proud about being associated with this administration, in terms of keeping the libraries open, 43 of them. It's something that really benefits our county and our residents. Of course, I'm going to speak about Burton Library as a Burton councillor. £1.3 million of investment, £1 million of that from this council, and more money from the government. I have a daughter, she's 10 months old. She loves books, but only to chew. She doesn't read them at the moment, but she will in time. And there is a fantastic new and improved children's area at Burton Library once it's fully redeveloped. She'll be able to make use of that, and I'm sure many residents will do so as well. There has been an interesting history about Burton Library in this council in terms of the decision about location, but I'm pleased that the decision was made to continue to keep the library where it is. And rather than the council saying, well, that's it then, Burton, you're off on your own, carry on as it is, what the council have said is, we're going to spend £1 million on refurbishing that library to bring it into the 21st century. And so that is thanks to this administration and the Cabinet member for making that commitment to Burton. We have a fantastic track record on libraries, and long may it continue. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Sawyer-Hussain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just would like to echo what's been said, especially by the member of Tower Division, Councillor Wildman. I recall in recent past we had some disagreement with the Cabinet member about the relocations of the library. But even at that time, I was assured about this investment. Whatever happens, it will go to Burton, some kind of ring-fenced. And I laud for her commitment. I respect her words. Thank you once again for this investment. I'm sure, I hope, this refurbishment will go ahead as we expected, and people will enjoy the library from our riverfront locations. The library itself reminds us nothing but an infinity under a roof. Thanks once again. Thank you.
Councillor Stephen Sweeney.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Many years ago, I think in 2013, I stood for re-election to this chamber, and the Labour Party in Newcastle put a load of leaflets out saying a library is under threat. And one of my residents phoned me up very, very excited about this. Now, this guy stood for Parliament for us twice, so he's in the loop. And he said, I've had this leaflet through the door, Stephen. I'm going to shut the libraries. I said, well, first of all, I pointed out, what on earth are you doing believing a Labour leaflet? I mean, it's basically all, you just don't do it, do you? But he did, anyway. And then he listed half dozen things he used the library for, and I'm backing up what Mr. Smith here said before about the library he used. And they listed half dozen reasons for things he used the library for, like the internet, paper, and that. Never once mentioned books. That wasn't one of the reasons he used it. So, as a community hub, as a community centre, I agree entirely with what Mr. Smith says. This is what libraries are evolving to do, and I absolutely, totally welcome this report. Thank you.
Councillor Johnny McMahon.
I fear I'm going to repeat some of what the others have said, but I just want to support the idea that libraries have become real community hubs. And in some ways, the word library is a bit of a misnomer. Gone are the days when you walk into a library, it's a bit like walking into a monastery. Not a word, and you dare say anything. You find your book, you get it stamped, and you're out the door. Now, they're real community assets. In Cannock Chase alone, there's knit and natter groups in libraries. There's musicians on a Saturday that get together and share songs with each other in libraries. And the enthusiasm of the volunteers is palpable. They want to do more all the time in these libraries. And it really helps those in need. You can see it. They're the isolated, the lonely. They find a real sense of, I don't know, security in a library and make friends in a library. And children's education continues through the summer through what the libraries offer. I wish there was a different word, because I think many people associate a library with simply books. It's not. It's far, far more than that, and that's certainly my experience in Cannock Chase. Thank you.
I have no further speakers on this item. Councillor Wilson, yes, you've pressed your button. Councillor Victoria Wilson.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to everybody that's mentioned their particular libraries. Libraries are loved by the local people, aren't they? They're loved by the local community. We have 43 libraries in this county. There are counties all over the country who are coming to us and asking us, how are we doing this? We are really an exemplar in this country for the way we manage 43 libraries. I do take exception to the comments about volunteers sort of almost stopping the gap up for us. They get as much value from doing that work, as Johnny has mentioned, as actually, you cannot measure the value of that volunteer as they walk in thinking, I feel isolated from my community. If I didn't have a reason to get up in the morning, I would be sitting in my house all day long. But I go out, I go into the community, and I make friends with people and I help other people. And the value of that is unmeasurable. So I do take exception to that, and I'm really grateful to my colleague, Councillor Sutton, as a volunteer who tells us, volunteers are supported. We have a volunteer framework to make sure that they are protected. And it's also a springboard to help people, if they want to go and get a job, this can go on their CV and they say, we've volunteered, we've spent our own time looking after people in the community through the library service. So I'm really glad to Councillor Sutton for raising that. So not only have we got 43 libraries, we're also in a financial position that we can actually maintain and improve the libraries. So we've already improved Tamworth and Lichfield, Stafford. We're going to do Wombourne soon. We've got Leek Library within the Nicholson Institute coming up soon as well. But Burton Library, the biggest library in our county, is finally getting the attention it deserves. It's going to be a fantastic offer for people of Burton, and I really hope that you come along for the ride. And when it's all done, I'd be very happy to show people around. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. No. I mean no. You had your say, and that's it. So the answer is always no. You're allowed to speak once. Can I just add my quick voice, just purely as chairman in the position I have, that I visited quite a number of libraries, been made incredibly welcome by the knitted natter groups, the places are welcome and such like. And when Mike sort of schedules me about an hour visit, it generally turns out to be 2, 3 and 4 hours, so absolutely fantastic. It's a real pleasure. I find one of the great pleasures of my job is visiting the groups that meet in the library. Moving on to item 11, which is on the leader's statement, which is supported internships. Councillor Syed Hussain.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I welcome the report as well. Just a small confusions here. Basically, what's saying the 16 to 24 years. Unfortunately, the special need educations, as we know, this stays with people with their lifetime. So this difficulty goes even beyond 24 years, almost go 60, 64, 65, whenever it is, always a hindrance to their career progressions. So I would urge the cabinet member to look into the matter and whether if he can extend the support to beyond this age cohort. Thank you.
Councillor Janice Sylvester Hall.
Thank you, Chair. For me, looking at this particular one, I appreciated, one of the things that motivated me to come into politics is looking at what business and education can do closer together to better still those that are going through the process, but also for productivity in general. And I think the inclusivity of this is definitely worth recognising, but not least for those organisations that are setting the example. So Screwfix and Hobbycraft, who were mentioned in particular in this one, I think is also worthwhile recognising publicly what they are doing to make sure that we are maintaining that inclusivity.
Councillor Paul Northcote.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and councillors. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I wasn't going to say anything, but I just wanted to relay an experience that I had when I was studying for my A-levels in my teenage years. I had the benefit to work in one of these establishments at the Adult Training Centre in Charlotte Atkins's ward of Leek. It was quite apparent to me, having volunteered to work there, and also to have the pleasure of being on the huge bus that took young people round to their homes after the working day and dropped them off one by one, because my home was quite some distance away, and I took advantage of the lift. But it was apparent to me the benefits to these young people is immeasurable. To have that consistency and purpose in life is so valuable, and to hear them chattering away after the end of the day was evidence itself that it had a massive impact on these young people. So I applaud the work that the cabinet members and officers are doing to raise the profile of this and to work with local employers, because I think internships for young people, particularly this age group, are vitally important if they're going to make a valuable contribution to our society at the end of it. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Philip White.
Thank you very much, Chairman. So this is a really good scheme. It's a national scheme, so it's a programme that we're delivering here in Staffordshire, as it is delivered in other parts of the country. But a really valuable part of our offer for people with special educational needs and disabilities. The age range that it's aimed at is very much aligned with other work in terms of helping people with disabilities and special educational needs on that journey to independence. And it's very much aligned with education, health and care plans, which run up to the age of 25. So there is some method in where it's been targeted at by government. And the scheme is a great one. It allows young people who are in education to have a supported placement, so they will go into a workplace with a coach, somebody who supports them through that process. It costs the business nothing to have that person there, and they are also supported through that process. So it works really well for all concerned, and it is something that I'm really pleased to see that businesses like Screwfix and Hobbycraft have taken up. There are many more in the county, too many for us to thank them all. But it is enormously valuable, and it is about that journey to independence. It's about as many people in our county, whether they have some additional need or not, being able to live independent lives, which is the best way to lead a good life if you can. The one other thing that I will mention, and many colleagues will be aware of it already, is the County Council's Open Door programme, which is our own scheme to help people who have difficulties in accessing employment, including those with special educational needs and disabilities, to have a work placement within the County Council. And there are people who I work with here. I've had an email from one whilst we've been sat here today who came into the council on work placements through that scheme and now work here full time. So it is one part of the jigsaw puzzle, but a really, really good part. And thank you to those businesses that are participating.
Thank you, Councillor White. We now come to the final item on today's leader statement, which is showing commitment to our armed forces. Councillor Philip Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I, on behalf of the Uttoxeter branch of the Royal British Legion, thank the County Council for our continued support of Armed Forces Day. And can I also make the Chamber aware that on Armed Forces Day at the National Arboretum, the founder of the Ride to the Wall, Martin Dickinson, presented a further cheque that money we collected last year's Ride to the Wall. And the bikers in the country have now raised £1.6 million towards the upkeep of the National Arboretum. So if you're doing nothing on the first Saturday of October each year, go to the National Arboretum. There were 8,000 bikes last year. I've been going since it started because I was the police sergeant in charge of the area on the very first one. I was expecting 500 bikes and 1,800 turned up. So we had the A38 in a bit of a chaos, but we sorted it out, and since then it's now very well managed. There's people from all over the country, in fact all over the world. We get a lot of people come from Belgium. It's very moving, the service at 2 o'clock. We have 2 guys from Uttoxeter that are on the wall. One died in Iraq and one died in Afghanistan, so it's very pertinent that I go. And I'm very pleased that the bikers do what we do. We get a bad reputation in the country, motorcyclists, but really we're big-hearted. We do a lot of work for charity, and the Ride to the Wall supports the National Arboretum. And I note that it remains a vital commitment for our council and county. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Tina Clements.
Thank you, Chair. I too was going to mention about the Ride to the Wall, but Councillor Hudson has stole my thunder on that one. Tamworth Royal British Legion again held a hugely successful event in the lovely Castle Grounds in Tamworth, and we were very fortunate to have the county recruitment team with us who were managing to get people to sign up for the IBL, as well as having a soft shooting range. But I also wanted to announce that Tamworth has just received the Silver Award for their work with the Armed Forces Covenant, and we all know that the County Council received the Gold Award earlier this year. So for me as a veteran, it's really pleasing to see that we're working so well with our veterans community. And yeah, the Ride to the Wall, I've been once, and it truly is an amazing event. Everyone has a fear of all these bikers, but when you see them come through Tamworth from Drayton Manor, and then you see them on the A38 and get an aerial shot come through, it's truly an amazing event. So thank you to the Ride to the Wallers that do this every year, and thank you to the County Council for their continued support.
Councillor Janet Eagland.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to make some comments on this piece in the item. I've had the privilege of being associated with the National Memorial Arboretum from small beginnings in July 2008 to what we see today. Staffordshire County Council has long been a supporter of the development of the NMA. Together with many other donations, we see the building as it is today. Prince William, now the Prince of Wales, became the patron and has been as closely associated with the NMA since then. The work on the new Remembrance Centre began in the summer of 2015. Within 12 months, the building was completed and fully furnished to welcome the first visitors in October 2016. The NMA honours and remembers those men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice in the service of their country. Visitors now have the opportunity to see the new Learning Centre, which ensures
that the future generations engage in learning about the contributions and the sacrifices that were made to ensure the memory of the fallen. During the time of the development of the NMA, I have had the privilege to have been presented to the Queen Elizabeth and the Duke of Edinburgh when they visited the National Memorial Arboretum. Of course, there have been many other official royal events at the NMA. The National Memorial Arboretum lies in my division of Staffordshire County Council. Therefore, I have had the privilege and the honour of visiting the NMA on so many occasions. Further plans for the NMA? I am given to understand that they are planning to build what they are calling a quiet area. This is dedicated to the people who died during the years of the pandemic. This will consist of seating areas, planting, and an ornamental pond. The NMA is grateful for all the volunteers that help with the day-to-day running of the activities and help with the many visitors that come every day. Lastly, I would like to encourage those of you who have not yet visited the NMA to go and see not just the memorials, but to experience the celebration of the remembering. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Robert Pritchard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a proud honorary Stafford, I'd like to take this opportunity to wish our very popular Staffordshire mascot a happy 6th birthday. Many will be pleased to hear the Watchman is now 6 years old, and in human years we are the same age, but he still has more hair than myself. I would also like to put on the record my thanks to his handler Greg and his wife Mandy for the sacrifice they make under fulfilling this important role. As many of us will know, Watchman is a regular attendee at civic events, community events and military events, not just in Staffordshire but across the country. They fulfil a vital role in our military community, and I would just like to extend my heartfelt thanks for all the work they do.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. A watchman tends to steal the show wherever he is. Councillor David Smith.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very proud to have been involved in the National Memorial Arboretum at its very, very early stages when it was just a quarry. But I went to many of the unveilings of the memorials, and one could imagine that it's a depressing place to go to. You could think of it in theory as being just a graveyard, and it's so totally not that. It's a place to go to where you can reflect and see the most amazing memorials to those people that died. And one that I particularly remember was when I went to the unveiling of the Showman's Guild. They had some up and down horses on the display. And someone said to the chap who was responsible, they won't last long, the kids will climb on those and they'll be absolutely ruined. And he said, oh yes, that's the business we're in. We love children to make use of these things, and we will repair it and keep it in perfect condition. And I think that that's the sort of theme of the way that we look at our armed forces. We care, we're concerned, and we wish to support them. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Alan White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I suppose I should declare an interest because I remain on the reserve list of the Army, so in the event of general war I get recalled back to the colours. My son is also a serving soldier in the Army. He's a corporal in the Royal Lancers, which is a local regiment, and I did point out to him a couple of months ago that some of you, I've told some people this story. I said, I tell you what, mate, if I get called back, you're going to have to call me sir. To which he deployed some ancient Anglo-Saxon phrase, followed by dad. The support that we give the armed forces in Staffordshire is, I think, second to none. We've got the 11th Signals Brigade, who are resident here in Staffordshire, the Defence Medical Services, who are over in Lichfield, and the contribution that they make to our economy and the well-being of our county can't be understated. As far as the National Memorial Arboretum is concerned, I go there every year to see the names on the wall of people I served with who fell, and it is quite a moving thing to do, to think of their faces before they went. There's only 1 year since the Second World War, 1968, where a man or a woman didn't die in a med learning operation that the British Armed Forces have been involved in. Just think about that. Every year since 1945, men and women have perished in conflict, and we pay tribute to them at the National Memorial Arboretum, and we should do so regularly and remember them in our hearts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, well said, Councillor White. And that concludes the Leader's statement. So we now move back to the main agenda, which is item 6, an appointment of chairman and vice chairman of committees. And Councillor Alan White, can you please move nominations for the appointment of chairman and vice chairman of committees and panels?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It gives me great pleasure to nominate Councillor Richard Cox as chairman of Health Scrutiny Committee and Councillor Julia Jessel as vice chairman of Health Scrutiny Committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Philip White. Are you happy to second that?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very pleased to second those two proposals.
Thank you. Councillor White has moved the nominations. Is that agreed? Thank you. Moving on to item 7, which is the overview and scrutiny annual report for the years of 2023 and 2024. Councillor Samantha Thompson, will you move consideration of the report, please?
I'd like to move it.
Thank you. I will call in turn the other scrutiny chairs. Councillor Tina Clements.
Thank you, Chair. Not wanting to go through all the work that we've done because it will take forever, but just to point out that we had so much on our agenda thanks to Darryl and his team. We had 2 extra meetings, 2 extra working plan sessions, and we visited the household waste and recycling centres in the pouring rain and in the mud. I'm really pleased, and I want to thank the whole committee, a few changes over the year, and for the work that they do, because if they're not involved in the work planning, then it's no point in doing it. And I'd also like to thank Jonathan Lindop, who you will know has left the authority now, but he has been the overview and scrutiny officer for the time that I've been on this committee, and we're now under Deb's lead. Again, thanks to Darryl and his team, thanks to the committee, and we've now got another year of extended meetings, so I look forward to welcoming all the members. Thank you.
I'll put my mic on, my apologies. Thank you to Councillor Clements. Councillor Bob Spencer.
Thank you, Chair. Just to echo what's previously been said, the report refers to all of the various reports that my committee has seen, so I won't go over them. I think it is important, though, just to recognise the importance of scrutiny, to make sure that we offer the best service possible to some of the most vulnerable people in our communities. And I know that previous speakers have talked about 2/3 of the council's budget being spent on children and vulnerable adults. And that obviously means quite a large workload. And I'm really pleased at the fact that the scrutiny is at times very forensic from my experience and very robust. And I would just echo the point that Councillor Sutton made, that we don't lose sight of the fact that actually we are here to emphasise the fact that we are protecting those most vulnerable. As you would expect, the subject matter is around safeguarding, particularly around recently around disabled and neurodivergent individuals. The majority of it, though, is about child safeguarding. Early years strategies, homes for children in care, residential placements, family hubs, foster carers, and also our adult safeguarding teams, just to name a few. What I would like to just take this opportunity, if I could, though, is just to highlight also some of the proactive stuff that is done by those committees, above and beyond the normal working sets of papers that we get. And I'll just give a few examples. We have the Personal Social Health and Economic Coordinator. Those will probably recall that that's a position that is paid for by the Crime and Fire Commissioner. And it followed quite a worrying report around sexual exploitation in schools. That was last year, but the committee felt strong enough that we wanted to review that as we went forward.
Also, another example, just working proactively with our districts and boroughs around things like vaping. Perhaps people weren't aware, but our trading standards have done an immense amount of work around trying to reduce the access of some of these vapes that no one knows quite what's in them to young people. And we've seen a threefold increase in young people using them here in Staffordshire. And I just think that demonstrates that proactive nature of going out to counties and boroughs and encouraging them to use some of their planning responsibilities around trying to put some control. Right person, right place, as you probably recall, was about how all of the agencies deal with those young, well, not particularly young people, but vulnerable people who might be suffering from a mental illness in a public place. That caused some real concern when it was introduced last year. We have insisted and held those people to account that are pushing that forward. We had quite a concerning report that was given to us right at the end of last year by the outgoing chair of Staff Safeguarding Children's Board. And what the committee decided to do is that they wanted to go and look for themselves. And several of committee members went to the MASH, spent the entire day there to reassure ourselves that actually what was in that report probably wasn't the true picture. Just as we move forward, it is important to recognise that we have that response to the Ofsted report on children's services. And also, I'm just pleased to inform the committee that we welcome the inclusion as we move forward around education and SEND responsibilities into this committee. Naturally, it will make it an even busier committee. And like Councillor Clements just said, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank all of the members of my committee for going that extra mile, insisting, making time, more meetings, finding the time to go out and spend a day at the MASH, for example, clearly with the objective of really making a difference to some of those people in our community. Thank you.
Councillor Richard Cox.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to open just to thank and compliment, I should say, to Jeremy Pert. I follow a hard act to follow here. Jeremy Pert was an excellent chair of the Health and Care. And if only I take a fraction of what he's done, I'll have done a good job, because that's how I look at it. I just wanted to put a few points that within the report, you've read the report, but just for your reference, which is always on the topic of conversation for a lot of us, the West Midlands Ambulance Service. They're not going to get away with it. We'll be seeing them again in September, and we're hoping to see some improvements from the last time. So be assured, members, 30th of September, that is when we'll be hearing from them again. We've already spoken today at length of Wally's Quarry. We have an item on our next meeting, which actually is on the 29th of July. We obviously, as a health and care, we have to look at the impacts on health. And I'm fully aware with Newcastle Borough scrutiny getting involved as well, and we'll have to obviously watch what's happening there as well, so we're not necessarily duplicating, but we're also making sure that we are covering any health implications that are coming from the stink. I was very fortunate to be asked, as then the Vice Chair, to chair the Adult Social Care Enhanced Assurance Working Group. And we had some good input from those members that attended it. And we had some real good sessions on it. It wasn't just one. And we came up with 14 recommendations to be taken on board. I'm pleased to say 8 of those 14 are accepted. 5 of which are going out for further consideration with other ONS committees and including the leaderboard, and 1 was accepted in part. I think that's a good ratio in terms of a good working group. So we, not to say that some of the others might come back and reject things, it's too early to say yet, but I'll take the fact that we've started a good job. So I do look forward to the opportunity of chairing the committee, and I hope that I don't become the thorn between 2 roses in terms of my vice chairs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Councillor Samantha Thompson.
Thank you. I'd like to think that this report that we've brought forward today is a very positive report and shows that the committee is committed to scrutinise and challenge our leadership team and to continue to do so. I would like to also take the opportunity to say thank you to all the committee members that have been there, supported us and really dug down and got into that work deeply enough. And I would also like to say thank you to former Chairman Mike Wilcox. He carried the meeting before I stepped in. I've just literally carried that last quarter of the meetings. So I would like to take that time to say thank you to Councillor Wilcox. I'd also like to say thank you to the officers who are the driving force behind us all. And I do know that we all stand appreciative to them because they do keep us where we need to be. So I'd just like to say thank you very much to all of you and to the officers and to Councillor Mike Wilcox. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Moving on to item 8 on today's agenda. Councillor Sutton, will you move? I'm sorry, I'm going to step 1 back. My apologies, Councillor Sutton. I move that the report be received, the previous one. Thank you, thank you. Now moving on to item 8 on the agenda, on today's agenda, which is the Corporate Parent Annual Report 23-24. Councillor Sutton, will you move consideration of the report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move consideration of this report and reserve my right to speak because I think there's other members that would like to speak on it.
Thank you. Councillor Trowbridge, would you be kind enough to second?
No.
Thank you. Councillor Janice Sylvester Hall.
There we go. I'd just like to take a moment to read a line. Children and young people in our care should be cared about and not just cared for. They have a unique place in society. I think that line sums up what is a very full report. I like to think I've done a small part in being able to make sure that that process takes place. And I, for one, actually asked to be on that particular panel as a Lichfield district representative. But of course, as county councillors, we are all corporate parents. As I've mentioned, it is a full report, but there is one aspect that I would like to highlight in particular, and it brings in something that I've already touched on in today's proceedings, which is, in this particular one, the Directory of Opportunities. Bringing together that business and education, which I've already mentioned that I'm particularly keen to make sure happens. Now, that Directory of Opportunities aims to give care leavers opportunities to find work experience, taster days, apprenticeships and employment opportunities with the council, across the partnership and with local businesses. And that would be where I would ask anybody in the chamber, if you have contacts, to make sure that that information is being relayed so we can take as full of an opportunity ourselves to enhance what we are currently providing to those care leavers and to the support of anybody who we are caring about. Thank you.
Councillor Tina Clements.
Thank you, Chairman. On the 23rd of May this year, we held the Fostering in Care Awards, and I was very pleasing to go along with other corporate parenting members to listen to some of the stories of the very people who look after some of our most vulnerable children was an emotional moment, to say the least. And to hear Councillor Mark Sutton address and open the event with passion and true dedication was very humbling. And I just want to share one of the stories without identifying the person, if I may. The lady was sat on the table where I was at the front, and she was one of the winners. And she shared her story of not being able to have children, and she moved over from New Zealand to the UK and inherited a large country house. And because she couldn't have children, all she wanted to do was to fill the house with the children playing and laughter and all the other noises that children make. And that is the true dedication of our fostering and our carers. She just wanted to hear the sound of children in the house, and she's actually fostered 17 children altogether in the time that she's been fostering. I only had one child due to medical issues, and I cherish my daughter every day, and I think, you know, she's never had to deal with some of the issues that our carers have to deal with. So thank you to Councillor Sutton for giving me the opportunity to attend, and I hope that I'm now not on corporate parenting, but I hope I can have the opportunity to attend other events. Thank you.
Councillor Anne Edgeler.
Thank you very much, Chairman. As we all know, children in our care are the most vulnerable people in our society. Being a former foster and adoptive parent, if I go back to the 1990s, when I first had contact with the County Council and social services, to see a lot of work needed doing in that area is an understatement. Progression has been made, and more so over the last 10 years, and where we are today is a far cry from where we were 10 years ago. Years ago. So I welcome the work that has been done. Personally, I find it a pleasure attending hot topic meetings and talking to the children, listening to their needs and what they want to achieve in life. I personally want to thank all the officers that work and help our children in care get. We've achieved a great deal, but there's still a lot of work to do. And let all of us remember we're all corporate parents. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Mark Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and can I thank the three members that have just spoken about the work that the corporate parenting panel takes on. There's many things that we do as councillors. There's many things that we do in this council, and every single one of them has its place, and every single one of them is important and it's an essential part of the jigsaw of what we do. But many things within children's services probably go unnoticed. We rarely get emails about this subject. I certainly don't, other than what I get because of my portfolio. But from members of the public, this rarely features in my inbox. So we mustn't consider the amount of emails we get and the amount of correspondence as being directly proportionate to the importance of the issue, because it isn't. And this, to my mind, is probably one of the most important things we as a local authority do. Everyone has an important role to play as being corporate parents to the children that we have in our care and our care leavers. Having a great start in life, being school ready, doing well at school, having opportunities out of school to develop, and being ready for the workplace are all ambitions that we'll all have for our own children and grandparents. So it is essential that we have the same ambitions for the children in our care and our care leavers. And that's not just us here, this is the whole council, and it is also the partners across the whole of Staffordshire who have a role to play in being corporate parents. So this particular report that's in there in some detail highlights what we have been doing, and some of those things have been highlighted by the other three members. The next steps for the next 12 months and beyond, and the terms of reference and that strategy. And that strategy, if you have a little look at it, was actually written with children It was produced with children, you know, to be able to be in a place that the young people that are in our care and our care leavers can understand and have had a great influence in producing it. So that panel that meets as a corporate parenting panel is essential in holding me, officers and our partners to account in ensuring what we do. And it has been highlighted, hasn't it, that the Voice Project, which we meet with on a regular basis, is a fundamental part in ensuring that we are doing and we are looking at the things that really matter to those young people in our care and their care leavers. And it is absolutely fantastic to sit down with these young people and listen to them, listen to their experiences and listen to it from their perspective, and not we as a corporate organisation and adults think that children want. So can I thank all the panel members for their commitment to the role, and also our staff in their continued endeavour to safeguard children on a daily basis and ensure our children in care and our care leavers have real opportunity. So I look forward to working with you all going forward to achieve the mantra, if it's not good enough for our own children, then it's not good enough for the children in our care.
Here. Thank you, Councillor Sutton. I move that the report be received. Is that agreed? Thank you. Moving on to item 9 on today's agenda, which is the 2023 Community Fund. The report and the next steps. Councillor Victoria Wilson, would you be kind enough to move consideration of the report, please?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I move consideration of this report, and if I can reserve my right to speak, thank you.
Councillor Alan White, will you second, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I second the report and, if necessary, reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Currently, I have no speakers on this item. Oh, we now have one speaker. Thank you. Councillor Caroline Trowbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for allowing me to speak on it. It's only because I'm on page 129. That's my picture next to the fire engine planter. I've always said the community fund I could spend over and over and over again. Then I got thinking, is it value for money? So once I started questioning myself, I thought I'm going to follow one through. So Stafford Fire Station Community Group asked me for a few £100 for planters to make their station look a little bit more community friendly. So I followed this through. I went to Oakwood Prison, watched them being made. Boy, are they beautiful. For a few £100, they are made so well. I then got Stafford Borough to put the soil in these planters, and we put some wildflowers in them. So for a few £100, we got these planters up, looking fantastic. From there, we've had planters in Victoria Park, herb boxes in Victoria Park, at the station, beehives going up all over the place, single beehives. Stafford has now become a bee-friendly Stafford. This has all grown from one little acorn. So, boy, does that community fund go far when you watch the way it grows. From a few £100, it spreads. So, absolutely, we need to keep this community fund. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Mike Davies.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to give a shout out to a volunteer group known as Ernest Thomas II. Now, I know that sounds like a strange name for a group, but it's actual fact it's a narrowboat. And it's a narrowboat that's being converted to accept people with disabilities and even wheelchairs. They cruise up and down the canal, usually stop at the canal side pub in Wimborne for some lunch, and then they cruise back to the morning. And during their open day, I was having a conversation with them, and they were saying just how their membership is getting really quite old now, and they could do with another 2 or 3 skippers. What I didn't realise was that skippers have to be trained. And I said, well, I might be able to help you there. And that's how it all came about. So long may they continue to cruise up and down the canal and have their lunch in Wimborne.
Councillor Alex Farrell.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say how excellent this community fund is for
different aspects of our communities across Staffordshire. I joined the County Council last year, and you learn something new every day. I had no idea that Tamworth has an aviation group, and they meet up every month, and they talk about planes, and they watch videos of planes, and they love it. And they applied for £400 for our community fund, split between myself and Councillor Clements, and that £400 bought them a projector so they could watch more planes. I was very happy to go along and watch more planes with them. And that just goes to show how a small amount of money, maybe on the grand scheme of things, can make a large difference to groups in our societies. Thank you.
I have no further speakers. Councillor Alan White, do you want to speak before I bring Victoria? Councillor Victoria Wilson.
Thank you, Chairman. Every year I champion this Members' Community Fund, £2,500 for each of 62 members to award to their various volunteer groups in their divisions. From helping to fund a petanque piste in Enville, and I am now a petanque team member, ask me later, to a project called Just 3 Mums Walking. And this was all to do with 3 mums who walked 265 miles from Staffordshire to Kent in 17 days in order to raise the risk of suicide. They tragically lost their 3 sons to it. There's no end to the varied and diverse applications that we receive here at the Council, and that helps us to help other people in all sorts of different areas. To date, I'm reliably informed that there have been 87 applications this year. Believe me, we look very, very closely and in great detail at each one. I would encourage all members here to think really carefully as to how they're going to award their funding and utilise this fund to the absolute maximum. Again, this is volunteers. The people who are applying for this fund are volunteers in our communities, not because they've been told to do it, but because they want to. They want to give back to their communities and they want to benefit and maximise the good work being done in their areas. From a little acorn, as Councillor Trowbridge has said, a great oak tree will grow. We don't give handouts here at the County Council. We give a hand up. And that's what this community fund is all about, and I'm delighted to be able to do this again this year.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I move that the report be received. Is that agreed? Thank you. Moving on to item 10, which is questions under Standing Order 8. Members, the 4 questions and answers have been circulated to members and published on our website. In accordance with the usual procedure, the questions and answers will be taken as read. I will allow each questioner 5 minutes to ask a supplementary question and to receive an answer. I will remind all members that no debate is allowed. Councillor Yates to Councillor DeVille, have you a supplementary question?
Yes, I have, if you don't mind. Thank you very much, Chair. Councillor DeVille, can I request that a commitment that DHB traffic surveys commissioned in this financial year are completed in a timely manner so that any actions recommended from the survey reports can be considered in the following year's capital programme, especially when one considers that this is the final term of this council and many of us here may not be here next year to follow them through. So I have been concerned about delays. I've taken your hand, so I know that's getting resolved, but we are in a sort of squeeze now to make sure we get the results in plenty of time so that we can actually put the actions forward.
Councillor DeVille.
I think firstly, I really need to limit the number of times that I agree with Mr. Yates. But Nigel, absolutely, traffic surveys, when we put traffic surveys in, they are absolutely essential. They directly relate to road safety, very often relate to children's road safety. So that's a massive yes, Councillor Yates. And also, thank you for putting the question in. We can never overestimate the importance of our DHPs, can we? Because we, as local members, know our local area best, and we know the areas that we need to spend our DHP. So we place great importance on that. I've asked Mr Bailey and his team to do some work, Councillor Yates, on improving the time span from inception of it and thought and our thinking about a scheme to delivery. And I've also asked for a piece of work to be done to ensure that we get very, very best value from the quotations that we get and then to deliver the schemes on budget. So thanks for the question. Absolutely we'll take that up and absolutely we'll give great urgency to delivering this year's traffic surveys this year.
Councillor Charlotte Atkins to Councillor Pert. Have you a supplementary, Councillor Atkins?
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, thanks for the response. But why is the information in the Cabinet report not published on the website to inform housing associations? I understand that in 2019 that was published. And just to make a point that Bagnall Heights does not meet the government criteria of extra need, extra care. It hasn't even got a restaurant, and in 2019 it was not listed as an extra care facility. So I hope that this extra care housing information will in future be updated and will appear on the council website so that anyone who has an interest in extra care housing can access it without any difficulty. Thank you.
Councillor Jeremy Pert.
Thank you. Appreciate the additional question. I think, it's a really important premise that housing is a really core component, whether it is general needs housing or extra care housing for people, to be able to live the best lives that they can. I think it is really a timely question because we are doing some work on housing strategy, particularly extra care housing strategy, and we will be bringing forward some decisions and consultations on that going forwards. I will also take on board the point which is that we don't meet government criteria, and I think that's something that we need to review against, and we will look to be transparent on any further stuff that we publish.
Question 3, which is Councillor Pardacy to Councillor Tagg. Councillor Pardacy, have you a supplementary question?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you.
If I could ask who the "we" refers to in the answer, my question was around as it's a council and its suppliers. So I'd like some clarification, please, on whether the "we" means just us as a council or the council and its suppliers. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Tagg.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the supplementary. I think when we refer to "we", we're referring to the County Council. Obviously, we, through our procurement, hire those contractors, so the "we" will cover them once we've hired them. Now when they're doing work for us, they'll be following the contractual arrangements we've put in place. So just to, as I say in the response, we are moving in a direction in our environment strategy to reduce the use of pesticides and herbicides. And of course, one thing I've got concerns about is a number of weeds that we do see in our gutters and against our walls, particularly in terraced areas across the county. So we can't move 100% in one direction. We've got to move at a pace that allows us to come up with other ways of reducing weeds on highways, for example. I'm sure that Mr DeVille's team are looking into that, but I can assure the member that we are obviously making pledges in our environment strategy and we'll move towards our goal.
And the final question, which is Councillor Hussain to Councillor DeVille. Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Hussain? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also, I would like to thank the Cabinet member for the reply he has sent it to us. And also, I'm grateful for the recognitions of all members, local members' effort to the local activities as well. Mr. Chairman, it is from the response we can see that there are so many missed out gullies still in there, which is causing this sort of problem as well. And I was quite fortunate, I'm really fortunate to have a fantastic highways officers and teams, and we have decided to carry on to list all these gullies. So can I just ask you, through you, Mr. Chair, to the Cabinet member, will he be look into those lists and come up with some kind of amicable solutions in near future? Thank you.
Councillor DeVille.
Mr Hussain, many thanks for the question and the supplementary. Also, for May, many thanks for the work that you do in your locality. I know you're very, very close to your local residents and you do a tremendous job. And thanks also for, I've visited Anglesey Road and other areas with you. Thanks for the hospitality and the welcome that your community have offered me when I've visited before. That area poses particular challenges around drainage work and gully work, and I know you understand that, and I know you've worked very closely with the local community to enable us, gully emptying crews and cleansing crews, to go in there and do the work around there. Can I suggest that if there are particular issues around that area or other areas, that again I come and visit you on site, which I'd be very, very happy to do. We can talk about the issues, we can formulate a plan to resolve the issues, and I think together we'll achieve a result as we have in the past.
Thank you. Moving on to item 11 on today's agenda, which is petitions. I have 3 members have already informed me that they are going to present a petition, which will be Councillor Nigel Yates, Councillor Jeremy Pert and Councillor Mike Sutherland, who I'll call in order in just a second. Are there any further petitions? In that case, Councillor Nigel Yates.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This petition is calling for the introduction of traffic calming measures on Halls Road and Biddulph as it approaches the Biddulph Valley Way. And can be justified for several reasons. I've been given a presentation by the petition raiser, which is very professional. I would like to read it out. There have been 7 accidents in the vicinity over recent years that have resulted in 2 injuries. The latest accident demolished a front garden wall where a child had been playing a few minutes earlier. This section of Halls Road has a particular layout that increases the propensity for road traffic accidents. Halls Road itself being a straight road that has a giveaway junction in an unnatural position along its length, with through traffic entering into this section via a sweeping bend up a relatively steep hill, which is Station Road. This has limited visibility. The layout has been a significant factor in the many accidents that have occurred. Slower traffic speeds have been proven to reduce the severity and likelihood of accidents. By calming traffic, the road becomes safer for all road users. I'd like to add that the Biddulph Valley Way is a popular route for walkers, cyclists and families. In fact, it's part of the National Cycle Network, number 55. This track's principal crossing point is on Halls Road, which is in a hollow with limited visibility. It's actually where the old station was, and it does seriously dip down. Traffic calming measures are needed at this point to reduce vehicle speeds, decrease the risk of accidents, and enhance safety for pedestrians crossing and using this significant national cycle path. Halls Road is also in the catchment area of many different schools. Improved road safety and reduced vehicle speeds make the route more accessible and encourage walking for children and other vulnerable groups such as elderly and those with disabilities. Traffic calming measures can make the area more appealing and safer for cyclists to access the Biddulph Valley Way and also for pedestrians, encouraging more people to choose these modes of transport over driving. This supports healthier lifestyles and reduces traffic congestion. As slower speeds and smoother driving behaviours reduce traffic noise, improving the quality of life also for nearby residents. Indeed, reducing the traffic speeds and encouraging non-motorised...
Councillor, can I just remind you, you have 3 minutes and you're over the 3 minutes now.
Okay, I'll just...
2 minutes, I believe. I will allow you a few seconds to conclude. No, I can take it. We're fine. But it is the time. You're instructed on the time limit. It's the same for everybody.
I appreciate it.
A line just to finish off, please.
One paragraph. Halls Road is currently awaiting...
No, not one paragraph. A line to conclude, please.
All right. One paragraph, thank you.
No, a line to conclude. We're not going to continue this argument. We'll call it a day.
No, it's okay. I miss it.
Thank you. Okay. Members, please. Councillor Jeremy Pert. You have 2 minutes, Councillor Jeremy Pert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
1 minute.
1,074 people have signed this petition, that is approximately 10% of the residents in the Eccleshall division, to call for the urgent structural repair to the A519 between Coates Heath and Millmease. They say that the A519, which is the main north-south trunk road and is the main arterial road between Telford and Newcastle, has become unsafe for road users generally, and not just car users. I'm thinking about bicyclists, motorcyclists and the like. They say the poor structure of the road, accompanied by the environmental factors and heavy traffic, result in the constant degradation of the surface, leading to further damage, rendering the road unsafe. The signatories are also worried about the road safety and serious accidents that will happen as a result. There is a regular inconvenience due to the road being closed for patching and because it is unsafe to drive. I could also mention that the serious damage done to road users' vehicles and the refusal by some to drive that road because it is so bad. It is one of the worst roads in Staffordshire. As a result, Mr. Chairman, the petitioners ask for a full structural repair of the A519. Thank you.
Councillor Mike Sutherland.
Thank you, Chair. The petition I'm presenting today is on behalf of the residents who live in and around Slitting Mill, and they are users of the Penkridge Bank Road. So I'm presenting this petition on behalf of these residents and families. There are approximately 150 homes within Slitting Mill. Over the past 5 years or so, they've had to cope with severe flooding on the main road, Penkridge Bank Road. And this causes massive inconvenience because the water doesn't flow away. So effectively, it shuts off an access point on this village, if you like, this Slitting Mill Road. The major issue, as I've said, is on the Penkridge Bank Road, where children attending the Hart School are unable to use the flooded pathway and must either pass by walking in the centre of this 40-mile-an-hour road, and where the water may be shallower, or alternatively, by wading through water, mud and silt at the shallow end of the flood. There is no alternative, as this is the only footpath in and out of that village. The flooding is also, at this point, a hazard for all road users, pedestrians, cyclists, motorcyclists and vehicles alike, as it congregates the flood itself on a bend. The residents are asking, quite rightly, that immediate priority be given by Staffordshire Highways and once and for all to resolve this flooding issue. Highways have tried their best. Regrettably, their best is not good enough. Thank you.
We move on to item 12, which is exclusions of the public. I'm delighted to say we have no exclusions of the public. So can I say, enjoy your lunch, have a great afternoon. Thank you.